gospel in classes. I used to say that originally I thought that since I was very vociferously supportive of the Democratic Party, that I should try to be as neutral as possible and never allow my predilections to be seen. And I soon realized that that was not right, not correct, and not the thing to do. Everyone should be aware of a person's political position so that you can evaluate what they say. So I always encouraged as much discussion among the Republican students as well as the Democratic students, and even the independents.
You had touched on this earlier about saying that not only did you teach political science, but you wanted to also apply it. And
yes.
That seems to really come across in a lot of the stories that you've talked about so far. Was there just a background in you that you wanted to get that across to your students?
Well, it was such an exciting time. There was so many interesting things going on that I think anybody who was involved in political science and politics would have to be involved. So I participated in political campaigns. I never ran for office myself. I never had the time. I was also interested in history. I taught American history, but I also was very interested in Russian history because it had never been taught before on our campus. And Russia was such an important, during the time, this was during the 50s and 60s, where the Soviet Union was of such importance in the United States and international relations. And so one of the most interesting trips that I ever took abroad was in 1967. It was the 50th anniversary of the Russian Revolution, the 1917 revolution. And the Soviet Union invited 25 teachers of Russian history to come that summer to view all the wonderful things that they had done in their country. The Ford Foundation was the first group allowed in, and we were the second. And we spent the summer traveling through the 15 constituent republics of the Soviet Union. It was a fantastic experience. And I took one of my students with me so that we had, and ever since then, I have talked about and tried to teach Russian history and be aware of what's happening in that area of the world.
Yeah, the accounts of your trip to Russia were just amazing in the Comet, the school paper.
Oh, really?
And it was just it was really a great read just to read, because it's the height of the Cold War, or
exactly.
During the Cold War.
Right.
And I was just kind of amazed that you were able to go to, the account said, and you just mentioned 15, it said over 20 villages, and what you, one of your statements were that the place was so clean.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everybody had a kowtow to Mark, absolutely. There was such fright and
right.
tension wherever we went.
And did you feel any of that tension?
Oh, yes. But there were a lot of humorous things. For example, we went down to Crimea, and they showed us the seat where Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill sat when they were negotiating. And we had two guides, one local and then one young man who was could speak English beautifully and who was with us the whole time. And the one guy said, "Oh yes, this is where Roosevelt was taken." And of course we burst out laughing. And they didn't know what was going on. But little things like that happened. And there were so many of them that were just fascinating.
I want to go back to when you first came to Charleston and first started teaching at Morris Harvey, and the president at that time was Leonard Riggleman.
Yes. Leonard Riggleman eventually moved next to me up in Canal City. So he was my neighbor. And that was, at first it was I was a little uneasy because your boss is living right next to you, you got to keep the grass cut and whatever. But it was always a pleasure to be with him. And he was very helpful and always considerate. And so I had one problem. I had some difficulty with my back, and I had to stay out of teaching, I think, for a week or two. And he was so solicitous that, that I was taken care of and everything was fine. So he was, as I say, a very good boss.
And he kind of carried this school on his back
Right.
between 31 and 64. I mean, he went
Right.
from bankruptcy to solvency.
Right.
Did you feel that sort of pride?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Many of us were very supportive of anything that he would do. We have been very lucky with our leadership in our school. Very many of them have been so helpful and so innovative in allowing us to take on new kinds of courses. Like I instituted a course in terrorism, instituted so many different courses over the years. There's one in mass communications, and of course recently our whole school of pharmacy. So we have been very innovative over the years in coming up with new programs and new schools, new searches of interesting things for our students.
Current President Ed Welch, do you see any similarities in the strive for excellence that you did?
Yes, definitely.
45 years previous when President Riggleman was here?
Definitely, definitely. And our presidents have always been close to the community and supportive of Charleston and the Valley, Kanawha Valley. And our students have been involved. In fact, in recent years, I've had many older members of the community, such as Mr. and Mrs. Wright was one, and Miss Lane was another, older people who were welcomed to take classes. As long as there was space in a classroom, they were encouraged to come and take classes. Many of them would take art and music, as well as academic subjects, English and so on. I had quite a few in my history classes, especially my history of Russia.
I recently read the Frank Krebs book, Where There Is Faith, the Morris Harvey story, and you co-authored a book with Frank Krebs.
Yes, it was the rise of the labor movement in West Virginia. Yes, the two of us co-authored that. It was called From Humble Beginnings. And I had a thrill once when I was in Washington. I went to the Library of Congress for some reason. I had to look up something or do some work. And I found the book in the stacks. And that was a thrill. Maybe no one read it, but I knew that it was in the stacks, so that's fine.
An issue came up in the 70s, mid-70s, about the University of Charleston becoming a state school and actually giving themselves to the state, and the trustees offered the school to the state, and then the offer was withdrawn a few months later. Can you describe your feelings in that time?
Well, I represented the faculty on the board at that time, and I was not sure. I could see the advantages and then the disadvantages. So all in all, I was unsure of which way to go, and so the overwhelming feeling was not to become a public school. And we had another interesting problem too at the time, later, of whether we would set up a law school. And I was really supportive of that. I thought that would be a wonderful idea, because every capital city in the United States has a law school. And so I thought that that would be excellent, but unfortunately we had a tremendous amount of opposition, and we never, even though we even had the funds, we couldn't do it. Maybe in the future.
This place has really grown in the last, because
Yes, and
there's a pharmacy school now.
Recently there have been talks, rumors that maybe that might be something to do also, something in the future.
How had students changed from when you were here in the 40s to
there has been a big change. And I'm not so happy about it. In the early days, there was a great deal of curiosity about information. And the students on the whole were very diligent and worked hard. There were very few who really, at least when I came into contact with, who were not interested and were here for a good time. And they were so curious about things. They, for example, participated in that great march on Washington with the civil rights movement. They were very involved in what was happening in their country and in their city, and they got very involved with Charleston's problems and projects. Today, most of the students are primarily concerned with what their problem for themselves, what's going to be their career, how are they going to be able to get a job and make a living. In other words, it's not quite the curiosity, the overall concern about the world about them that used to be the case, which was great for political science. But today, there's more of an interest in business, in economics, in communication, especially with all the internet and computers and the technological revolution. You can understand that. It's very, very common to realize that that would be one of the results of the impact on students. And I really worry about it because I think curiosity is the trademark for human intelligence. And without, a curiosity about the world about them, the community and their lives, I think they lose a lot in having a productive and even a happy life. But that's just my point of view.
You've enriched thousands of lives here at this institution. Who enriched your life to get into teaching?
Oh, this is funny. I don't know how this happened, but my mother used to tell me that the first thing I wanted was a desk. I wanted a desk. And a little bit later, I played that I was a teacher. So where this came from, I don't know. But one of the problems, if you were a girl growing up when I did, in the 30s, during the Depression, most of the parents of my friends and society trained girls to find a husband and therefore survive. My mother said, Evelyn, you can have a career if you want to, you can do anything you want to do. And they encouraged me to go to college. Most of my friends after high school got a secretarial job or something, worked in businesses in the community or in New York, because there was a lot of opportunities for young girls to find secretarial jobs. But from the very beginning, I was always interested in academics, and where it came from, I don't know.
And you were a proponent for women faculty all through your career.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, a friend of mine who worked in the West Virginia government, we went around the state, toured the state, and met with many different women over the years to encourage them to develop their own potential. And that was great experience.
Can I talk about, you talked about May Day and some of the stuff on campus, and I was fond of reading about Sadie Hawkins Day.
Oh yes, I wanted to talk about Sadie Hawkins Day. I forgot about that. Little Abner and Daisy May. Al Capp even came to our campus. Bob Byrd played his fiddle. It was fantastic. For one weekend, even the Charleston community was, I didn't know what Daisy May and Little Abner called their community, but it was it on our campus.
And to celebrate Sadie Hawkins Day, there would be Sadie Hawkins Day football when the football game was played, there would be a